Hey all, working on my 1978 Datsun 510 wagon project I picked up a couple of weeks ago. This car was not running when I got it, and it hasn't been registered in 18 years, so I'm assuming it's been sitting for at least 15 years. A couple of the early problems I ran into when trying to push this thing into the stall is that it did not want to roll very well, and 3 of the 4 wheels wouldn't roll smoothly or freely. So as you can imagine, for sitting for 15 years, all the hydraulic systems, the hydraulic clutch and the hydraulic brakes are seized up, and so started on it yesterday as far as freeing up those seized up brakes, and I'm going to walk you through how I rebuilt one of those calipers and rear wheel cylinders. So here's a look at the left front caliper. The brake master cylinder is not in this car right now, so there's obviously no pressure, and you can see it really doesn't want to turn freely. A couple of unique things about this brake caliper that I had not seen before. Typically, you have either a fixed caliper that has 2 pistons, one that pushes on this pad, one that pushes on this pad, or you have a floating caliper where the whole assembly floats and squeezes the brake pads onto the rotor that way. This has a unique design where it has a piston here. The fluid goes in here, this piston pushes on this brake pad, but also has a piston coming out the back over here, and will push out this way onto this bracket, which transfers the energy over to this pad to squeeze this way. So you'll see all that as we disassemble it. Thanks.
Okay, so I got the remaining wheel cylinder there out of the right rear drum brake and the left front caliper off. I didn't film the removal of that rear wheel cylinder because it's pretty standard drum brake stuff, but I'll kind of go quickly over how to get that thing apart, clean it out, and kind of recondition the seals. This car is super hard to find parts for, so I'm not trying to buy new seals for all this stuff, and I've had pretty good luck. This rubber seems to be in pretty good condition even though this car's been sitting for quite some time. So first thing I'm going to do is pull these 2 cotter keys right here, slide these slide pins out, get the brake pads out of it, take the piston, the floating part off of this bracket, and then we'll apply some air and get these pistons out of the bore here. So, okay, you can see you got that piston and bore assembly off of the rest of the caliper bracket. There's the inner piston that pushes on the inner pad, and this is that one that pushes on the outer pad through this bracket here. So there's these rings, I don't know if you can really see those right there, that kind of hold the like the dust boots in place. So I'm going to pop those off next, free the dust boots from the caliper housing itself, and then put in a little air right in there and push those pistons out, and I'll try to film that, even though it might be a bit hard. I don't have a camera stand, so but we'll try to get it filmed. Thanks. Okay, so you can see I got this caliper in the vise here. Something I learned yesterday when I was doing this is the right front that I did yesterday was super seized up. So just kind of collapse him a little bit to try to free him up before trying to get him out of the bore, right? Trying to get these pistons out of the bore of the caliper. So just got a socket in on this side because it has this like bracket here, so I can't press straight on it with this vise here. I'm just gonna crank on this a little bit and try to free him up. You can see the brake fluid coming out. And it looks like only the inner one is compressing. So maybe I might kind of stop there, get that inner one out, and then go to work on the outer one. Okay, reposition this caliper into the vise here, and I'm going to apply a little air right here where the brake fluid goes in, and try to push that inner piston out. You don't want to do this just out in the open because sometimes those pistons will come flying out of the bores. If they're stuck and you put a little pressure in there, they'll free up and shoot out of there and do some like legit damage. So just get yourself an air nozzle that's got a rubber tip like that so you can seal it off. I'm gonna put a little pressure in here and see if we can't get that. You can see it slowly. Sorry about the bad camera work there. Here it comes, and then I'm gonna slowly open up the vise. And hold it to get that piston the rest of the way out. film that part without a camera stand. Just took a little bit more pressure, and then that piston came out of the inner piston did. You can see down in there what kind of sludge we're dealing with on this car that's been sitting for so long. So basically what I'm going to do now is just do a little mechanical pressing with this vise, get that other piston to move a little bit, and then we're going to push it out as well. Okay, so without the inner piston in there, we obviously don't have anything to push against to try to push that outer piston out. Luckily, I work at a place that has this press here, so I'm sure you could figure out how to do this at home if you didn't have a press, just using a big C-clamp, some sort of cups or something to push this out. It should, once you get it free, it should move fairly easily as well. So basically I just set this up so that these plates aren't obstructing the piston from coming out, and I'm just gonna put a little pressure on there and see if we can't get that thing to move. Sorry about the bad camera work again. Yeah, it's moving no problem. So I'm just gonna go ahead and push that so you can get a good shot of that moving. It's probably pretty hard to see. Anyway, I'm gonna shut off the camera so I can grab the piston as it drops out the bottom. Success, we got both pistons out of there. You can see the bore where they, there's both of what they refer to as square cut seals, one for each individual piston. The pistons are not in great condition, but they don't seem to be super rusted where they slide against that seal. So I'm going to clean these up real good with a wire brush around the parts, obviously not where it contacts the seal. Some Scotch-Brite pad on the surface that does touch the seal. I'm going to pop these square cut seals, just going to pull them out like a pocket screwdriver out of the bore. Clean them up real good, and then soak them in fresh, clean brake fluid. I do believe that back in tech school they said that these square cut seals might be directional, so just make sure that you keep the orientation correct so that when it goes back in, it's sitting in the same position, it's not flipped backwards from where it was before. Yeah. And that's what it looks like with those square cut seals out. So now time to clean these bores. I'm gonna use Scotch-Brite in there, get rid of all that rust, try to get rid of some of the pitting, clean the outside of it with a wire wheel, clean up the pistons, clean all the boots and seals real well with the microfiber, and we'll put it back together. So here's the caliper cleaned up as best I could get it. I'll wash it out a little bit better with some brake clean in just a minute, but as you can see, this rear piston here had a fair amount of pitting once I got that rust off of there. Hoping that'll be okay, won't leak any brake fluid. So this is the rear one. Something you should probably do, just check that it'll move through the bore smoothly. Obviously that seal's not in there right now, so it should move through there. You shouldn't have to press or anything difficult. Yeah, drops through no problem. Check the other one. This is the side that this one goes in. Just kind of wiggle it around till it lines up. Yep, cool. So we're good. I'm gonna clean up these seals and the dust boots, the square cut seals, and then soak them in brake fluid, I don't know, 10 minutes or so. And then reinstall them in these grooves and then put it back together. I'm gonna put the whole thing back together. We'll put it in the car and see if it applies and releases correctly. So here's the caliper all installed. Wheel spins freely now. I've left the brake line loose here so I can put a little bit of air in where the brake fluid would go. Just kind of watch, just slowly apply this so it doesn't blast your pistons out of there. Come on, there it goes. Okay, you can see they're both squeezing good now. So let's see if I can shoot this. Free, apply, fail. Can't do, I don't got 3 hands, so I'm just gonna make sure that it applies good and strong. Thanks. This looks to be a pretty standard wheel cylinder. It's got these boots at the ends. I'm just going to kind of free them up from the cylinder itself, put a layer of pressure in this hole here while holding it in the vise, and slowly open the vise and allow the pistons to come out either side of the wheel cylinder here. So I think I got lucky yesterday. The one that I did, they both of the pistons came out at the same time on this wheel cylinder. I don't know, I'm going to try to get a shot, but that's kind of what we're dealing with here. Some pretty gnarly brake fluid. So I'm gonna just have to figure out some way to push that out. It shouldn't be too difficult. Might take it over to the press, or just use this vise with a socket and kind of put it at an angle. So what I did is I just finagled this boot off the end. This is what the piston looks like when it's out of the bore. Finagle that boot off of the end, which is over here, then fit a socket that would allow the piston to come in my case, have to be 24 millimeter, and then another socket that's small enough to push it out, and we're just gonna squeeze this dude and see if we can't get it to move a little bit. Yeah, I can feel it's moving. Yeah, obviously it's pushing that out. So, gonna just reset and push it all the way through. So that's what that particular piston looked like once I got it out. Obviously, pretty gnarly. So now just clean up all this, blow through all the brake fluid passages, clean the bore of this, put it back together. One thing I forgot to mention, when you're disassembling these, you'll want to get that seal that sits back there off, get it cleaned out real good, blow through these little passages, which I believe brake fluid uses to press against that seal, and then soak the seal in brake fluid, just like you did with the square cut seals on the front calipers. So here we are, all back together. I got my 12-year-old son to come down and pump the brake pedal for me so we could get these brakes bled. Just I don't have a pressure adapter for this master cylinder, so just did the old pump the brake pedal and hold it routine to bleed these brakes. Just went out and test drove it. Everything seems to be working great. I employed similar procedures to clean out that master cylinder. I took the brake master cylinder all apart, just blasted it out with brake clean, use a little Scotch-Brite on the inside, take the seals off, clean them off, clean the pistons inside the master cylinder, and put it all back together, and everything works great. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that parts are hard to find for this thing. I did a little research, and actually the parts for rebuilding these brakes are not that difficult to find. I'm sure you could, just with a quick web search, you could find what you're looking for. But like I'm saying, even though this car had been sitting for a long time, the rubber was still in pretty good shape and everything works good. Doesn't seem to be any leaks or any like internal fluid leaks in the master cylinder or anything. So brakes feel great, car stops good, everything's good. Hit me up if there's anything in particular you want to see on this car. I know there's not that much on YouTube about this version of 510. So if there's anything you're curious about, I don't know everything about this car, but maybe we could figure it out together. So thanks for watching.